right, looks like we got a good group, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar, Office Hoteling Made Simple for Every Organization. My name is Mike Jeffs. I run the customer marketing here for Space IQ and Archibus. And today's presenter is Mike Zimmer. He's our Senior Solutions Engineer. And we're super excited for what he's got in store for us. And before I turn it over to him, I just want to go through a couple of quick items. Questions, of course, we want your questions. Feel free to ask those in the questions section as we go along. Don't be shy. We're here to help you and help you understand the hoteling tool. So we'll be answering those at the end, and Mike will take those questions, Mike Zimmer. The recording will be emailed tomorrow to everyone who has registered. So if you missed part of it or you want to go back and watch it, you'll have that opportunity. So we know your time is your most valuable asset, and so we're very grateful that you're here with us today. So Mike, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Hey, terrific. Thank you so much, Mike Jeffs. And hello, everybody that's elected to join today. Hope you're all doing well. Hope the week is progressing smoothly, and that we're looking forward to taking a look at hoteling in Archibus. For those that aren't familiar with the concept of hoteling, we're actually going to start by answering the question, why hoteling, kind of in the first place. Then we're going to look at a live demonstration of Archibus's capabilities in this particular area. And then, as Mike has already alluded to, we're going to have a Q&A session following the live demo, where we're going to answer any and all questions that you might have for us. And in the event that we can't answer a question of yours, we'll make sure to take that down as a follow-up item and get back to you as soon as humanly possible. So let's go ahead and start off by answering the question, why hoteling? So first and foremost, it provides a great end user experience for employees when they are one of those hybrid employees that they're looking to quickly book a desk within the space inventory of their organization. We'll see examples of exactly how straightforward and easy this is, while ensuring that they get the perfect desk for them. And then there are a lot of kind of soft benefits, downstream advantages to having a great user experience for employees, particularly around something like hoteling spaces, hoteling desks there within your organization. One of which is gonna be, then this is kind of like way down the line, but it could assist in the retention of talent because, people want to work for an organization that are very technologically savvy and that kind of put an emphasis on their employees' experience when they're interacting with the space. And then what hoteling in Archibus and just kind of hoteling in general kind of allows for is this freedom of choice that is guided by standardization. What I mean by that is as a user, I have the ability of selecting exactly the space that I want to book, but behind the scenes, my organization has kind of tailored my decision tree so that it fits within the overall space utilization strategy of the organization. And we'll speak to that. We'll see a demonstration of that here shortly. It increases space use efficiencies. So examples of that, or as these kind of sub-bullets are, is that it's going to support that hybrid working environment. That is a big deal. It was prior to the pandemic. It's going to continue being the way that people want to engage with their office spaces, things along those lines moving forward. It's not going anywhere, and you're going to need a solution. Organizations need a solution that kind of supports that from a technological perspective. It's going to assist in the right sizing of your space inventory. So we'll talk about this when we get into conversations around reporting and the capabilities specifically within Archibus around taking a look at how people utilize the spaces that are available to be hoteled. So ultimately, through taking the data out of Archibus around hoteling and reservation type data, and in using that to data substantiate, maybe we can streamline, maybe we can jettison some of the space that we currently have in our portfolio, because we're working with a 2-to-1 seating ratio, and it's really working out for us very well. It's still this great employee experience. So we don't need all this space, and that's going to assist in a variety of different ways, namely a very financial financially impactful ways for organizations when it comes to managing what is the second most expensive thing on their P&L statement, being the space and the pieces of equipment that make up their portfolio. And then, as I kind of already mentioned, while we're supporting hotelable spaces within an application, within a solution, we're gaining key pieces of information around, how many seats do we actually need out on the floor in our inventory? How much space we actually need for people to still have enough time and space to interact with, to get their jobs done, while offloading the space that has proven to be unnecessary. And then more Archibus specific why hoteling responses is that it leverages pre-existing capabilities in the tool. Right? This is a great opportunity for you all to kind of land and expand into your customer sites, your customers' organizations. If they're already using space management and strategic space planning, they can very easily have this dovetail into things like obviously the hoteling capability, as well as incorporate hoteling into the Workplace Services portal. And of course, we're going to see examples of that here in just a moment. So those are some of the big reasons why organizations kind of move forward with hoteling various components of their space inventory. Now we're going to transition, over into the live demonstration portion of our time together today, right? So what are we going to be focusing in on specifically when we're talking about hoteling in Archibus? So really going to focus in 3 key areas. The end user experience. If I'm saying that this is going to provide a great user experience for employees, we better be able to prove that out. So let's take a look at what an end user sees when they're booking a workspace through the Workplace Services portal. We'll also talk about the various form factors that portal can be displayed on, because it is, of course, very mobile friendly, mobilely optimized, because that is how the majority of people are going to be interacting with this portion of the tool. Then on the back end sort of things, how is this solution administered? How easy is it for end customers to make sure that they've got those guardrails set up so that we can tailor that decision tree for the end user, so that they're selecting the spaces that we're wanting them to select. And then finally, what is a software demonstration without also touching on the reporting capabilities of Archibus? Now, we've gathered all this kind of transactional information from end users as they're interacting with their hotelable desks and whatnot. What can we do with that at the end of the day? And then I've also got kind of a neat example of a further refinement of the reporting capabilities when a customer elects to integrate Archibus to something like a real-time occupancy sensor. So we'll take a brief look at that as well. But let's start things off with an exploration of that end user experience. Now, for the purposes of our demo today, I've got the Workplace Services portal pulled up on my desktop screen here. But do know, as I had mentioned before, all of this is very mobile friendly. If we wanted to just take a quick preview as to what that might look like on a mobile device, it's responsive design. So that's going to mean that it's adjusting the way it displays on the device based upon the screen real estate that it's got available to it. In the very near future, we're going to have more of a typical downloaded application from the iOS or Google Play Store that users can install onto their phone, and it'll function in a way very similar to what we're about to take a look at here. But again, it's a native app that gets downloaded. And Danielle, please feel free to buzz me if I just made a future-facing statement that I shouldn't have. We could always fix it in post, so to speak, as well. All right, so I've logged in as Adam, and Adam is needing to book a workspace within his organization's building. So I'm going to navigate to this Workplace Services portal in a variety of different ways, as we've already discussed. And something to keep in mind, and I'm sure the audience is well aware, is that this is extremely configurable, right? So we're going to be able to whittle down the different tiles or buttons that Adam has available to him based upon what it is that we want him to be able to engage with. But in this case, he's got all these options available to him, and he can very easily just select Workspace Booking, right? Up on screen, it's going to display the building and floor that his user is typically associated to. So that's what is kind of defining the default here. Of course, if Adam is traveling across his organization and maybe he wants to find a seat in another building or another property in another region or locality, you can very easily search across all those different properties by navigating to this buildings button here, and you can search from there. But in this case, what he's going to do is navigate to the 5th floor, because that's where he's wanting to book a seat for his day. And now he's going to start filtering down to just the seats that he wants to book. And so he's got a lot of different options available to him where you can set up a recurrence pattern. In this case, we're not going to do that, but he selects his start date, his day part. So really easily he's able to filter just to the spaces that are available for that particular part of the day. He could also filter based off of the room type. So this doesn't need to just include desks. This could also include, huddle rooms. This could include cubicles. This could include hotelable offices as well on the floor plan. In this case, we're just looking at desks, but he can filter based off of that criteria as well. Now, when we talk about showing department, he has the ability of highlighting on the floor plan different departments, neighborhoods, for lack of a better term, where these spaces are allocated to that particular department. Now, we'll get into this a little bit more when we're talking about the administration of this solution. But if we're wanting it to only display Adam, in this case, the engineering department desks, we can absolutely make that very easy change on the other side of Archibus, the more business/power user side of things within the tool. But in this case, he doesn't have that restriction, but he does have the ability of highlighting the floor plan based off of whatever characteristics that he's selecting here, as well as filtering off of something like amenities. Now, these amenities, of course, are organizationally specific. So if you're wanting to include different amenities, or rather your customer wants to include different amenities, it's a very easy configuration change to make as well. But if he's needing a docking station at his desk, and he's also wanting a window view, those are just a couple of the amenities that he can search based on. So it's resulted in the desks along the perimeter of the floor, which makes a lot of sense because those are more than likely close to a window. He finds one that he likes. I like this one in the southeast corner. I actually like this one here. He selects the desk, hits book. It's going to ask him, are you booking for yourself or another person? In this case, he's booking for himself. And then he simply clicks book. That is about as straightforward as it gets in terms of whittling down an entire floor's worth of hotelable spaces to just a collection that fits his specific needs. And that is how one would reserve a space in kind of the more traditional hoteling of a space kind of workflow or process. We're going to touch on the other options available to him. So things like activity-based work or team-based work, how do we support that in Archibus? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But if we were now wanting to take a look at how Adam checks into this space, he's going to click in the upper right-hand corner, in this case of his laptop. Of course, if this was on the mobile phone, he would tap that portion of the screen, head to the workspace reservations portion of this menu. And apologies, I forgot to turn the check-in configuration on for this particular user. But what he has available to him here is a listing of all the different reservations that this user has created. He can then simply click check in. Alternatively, there is an additional capability with Archibus where you can include a health attestation. And what that allows for is when Adam touches or taps on that particular button prior to checking into the space, he's prompted with a list of things that he needs to attest to. So things like, have you not had a fever in the past 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever the case might be? Are you symptom free, right? So this is part of that overall return to the office solution that Archibus has built into it as well, so that prior to checking into the space, he can confirm that he's healthy and that he doesn't pose a risk to the organization by coming in if he's displaying any sort of symptoms with flu, etc. So that's an additional capability as well. Now, I had made mention that there are other ways, other scenarios or use cases that are supported through the hoteling of spaces by an individual user through the Workplace Services portal. Another good example of that is, as I had mentioned, this activity-based work. So if Adam is leading a team and he needs to book a grouping of desks so that his team and him can huddle up, perform whatever kind of project-based work that they might need to perform, it's really, really straightforward as well. Just as straightforward, except for, in this case, we're going to be selecting desks that are kind of polylined together into this clustering, and it's got a helpful visualization that's telling us how many seats are available in that group if we were to elect to book it. So I'd select that particular cluster, indicate how many seats I'm going to need. So we'll say 8 just for fun. And then when I click book, it's the same exact process. And this reservation, this booking is going to belong to Adam in this case for the remainder of the time that this booking is going to be utilized, or rather over the course of this reservation being checked in against, things along those lines. But that's current state. I do know that our product team is hard at work with some enhancements to that process, where we're going to start looping in or grouping in the other individuals that are going to be joining him in that reservation once it's time to actually go ahead and check into that grouping of desks in that case. But right now, current state with the solution is that it belongs to that singular booker moving forward. One other item around hoteling of space that we'll go ahead and touch on here, and then we'll move over into more of the administrative side of things. If I'm leveraging the portal to find people, equipment, or departments, I simply select that tile that we just saw me click on the portal. What he has the ability of doing is searching for different users. So in this case, we'll pick David. And if I'm wanting to locate this person, either in their fixed assigned seat or office, or any hoteled space that they've got, I have that option available to me. So I can very easily locate whomever within the organization. So in this case, I've selected David Acevedo, and it's showing me that he's in this office here. So I picked a kind of a random user here, but typically, or rather, if there's a photo that goes along with this individual user that we just searched for, of course, that's going to be provided in this push pin as well. And then if there are hotelable spaces available on the floor that this individual is located, and again, apologies, I kind of picked one at random. If I were to click book a working space, it would find what hotelable spaces are available on that floor. And so I can now go ahead and book a space that's nearby my coworker. Now that's particularly beneficial if I get called into the office for like a crucial coaching conversation or something like that, or one-on-one. But of course, if my buddy has booked a space as well on that particular day, I'm also going to want to see where they've booked. Maybe it's been a while since we've worked alongside of each other, and I'm able to see what flexible spaces or flexible desks that they've also booked for that given day, so I can easily locate individuals on a floor plan in that manner as well. All right, so that's what I wanted to step through today regarding the end user experience when we're talking about hoteling desks. Now let's kind of change gears a little bit and talk about the capabilities of administering the solution. So let me come over into the Web Central view of Archibus. Here it is. I'm sure everybody on the phone is pretty familiar with this layout. Let me go ahead and refresh the screen. I may need to go ahead and log in as a different user as well. So apologies for the little bit of a delay, but we'll make sure to get running here really quickly. So when I'm saying that the hoteling capabilities of Archibus kind of leverages pre-existing tools within the overall Archibus solution, I think that's best indicated via the space console, because that's where we're going to be controlling a lot of the aspects over which desks are hotelable versus which ones are not. It's a really easy adjustment to make, but we'll also make sure to touch on some of the additional kind of RTO capabilities that Archibus affords to its customers as well. Not that this is an RTO, return to the office demonstration, but we're here, we might as well talk a little bit about it. So I know that all the users, or all the folks on the phone today, very familiar with the space console and what capabilities there are in. But let's just take a look at where this involves overall hoteling in Archibus. And so if I'm wanting to adjust which desks are available to be hoteled or not, I'd select the multiple asset tool along the left that you just saw me select there, select the different spaces that I'm wanting to adjust, and then come in here. And really what this allows us to do, again, I'm sure folks on the phone are pretty familiar with this already, but we can adjust any number of different characteristics about the space from this screen, right, across all the different desks that we had selected. What we're focusing in on here is this is hotelable field. So if I'm wanting to make this not hotelable, I can very easily just simply click no, hit save. It's going to make that adjustment across all the different spaces that I had selected. And it's a real-time update, of course, to the Workplace Services portal. So if Adam logged into this floor, he was taking a look at it, those desks that we had just selected are no longer available to be used as a hotelable space. So really easy to institute that kind of on-off change regarding certain desks, as to whether or not they can be booked or not. An additional item to consider when we're deciding which spaces can be or should be hoteled is social distancing. So, if I were to take a look at the set occupancy targets capability of Archibus for this particular floor, I'd select that building. Let's go ahead and edit selected. And if I'm wanting to institute a safe distancing target in terms of square feet, or in feet, excuse me, of 3 feet drawing around the center of that particular workspace, very easily accomplished simply by inputting the number of safe distancing target feet that I'm wanting to meet here. So that when David, in this case, our administrative user, wants to see, how are we looking from a safe distancing perspective, he simply clicks the button, the safe distancing button here. And what this tells me is that we've got some spaces that ought not to be hoteled. And I always do that during demos. I don't know if anybody on the phone can commiserate with me there. So, in the case of these circles that are overlapping and are red in color, I know that these shouldn't be hotel because they're too close to one another. So again, what I'm going to do is come in here, adjust the spaces that I had selected to not hotelable. And maybe I also want to adjust this to do not use as well. And what that will do is, reduce those red circles to just the one space that is still available to use and hoteled, but it's now got a green circle around it because it's not touching any of the other, socially distant spaces on our floor plan. So an additional thing to keep in mind or to consider, or for customers to keep in mind and consider when deciding which spaces should be hoteled and which ones should not. So that's kind of like the yes/no type administration of what spaces should be included in our hoteling program or approach and which ones shouldn't be. Now, if we're wanting to take a look at those more organizational type decision points that we might want to include. So think back to that original example when I'm like, if I only wanted to show, engineering department neighborhood desks to that user, how do I accomplish that as an administrator within the tool? And that's going to be accomplished via the hoteling parameters within Archibus. So you navigate to it in the way that you see here indicated on screen. And these are very highly descriptive. So it's quite easy to find which configuration, which parameter you're wanting to adjust based on the code here. But you may want to explore some of these, just take a look at them and see what the options are available when you're configuring these different booking rules, for lack of a better term, or parameters, I guess you could also say. But the one we're talking about here is this hotel booking restrictions. And what this allows for is for you to filter those spaces that are available to users via one or a combination of these different elements, these different organizational attributes of that particular user. So we have building, floor, division, department, and team. So these characteristics, these elements are entered into this parameter value. And then by leveraging the virtual private Archibus capabilities on the user record, the profile there, you have the ability of saying, hey, Archibus, when David or when Adam logs into the workplace booking tool, the hoteling tool, only show them this space. And so that's how we offer that freedom of choice while still making sure that they adhere to the standardized approach to what spaces that they should be interacting with when hoteling various desks. Now, again, I'm sure folks on the phone may be familiar with this already, but in the event that you're not, a lot of rules, a lot of controls are available to end customers or to you as you're implementing these solutions for your customers along the line here. So this is when we're talking about, certain spaces need to be approved by folks prior to the reservation coming into effect. The maximum number of days ahead that somebody can book, the morning start time, those day part start and end times are all going to be configured per the hoteling parameters listed here on screen. So a lot of work gets done around the configuration of what rules are in place when we're talking about hoteling within Archibus. All right, so that's what I wanted to cover regarding the administration of the overall solution here. Now let's move into a conversation about demonstration of the reporting capabilities, because generally when we demonstrate this to folks, that's the next step in the process. All right, so we saw how it looks from the part of the end user. We could take a look at how it's administered. What can we do with this data once we've got it all buttoned up and housed within the Archibus tool? So of course, Archibus has standard reports in this area, as you might imagine. They're located here underneath the management reports and operational reports. But when we're talking about, taking a look at overall hotel utilization grouped in a variety of different ways, more often than not, we're going to stick with the management reports. So that's where we see things like overall utilization by department. I'm almost hesitant to bring up an example of the report because we are working with some demo data here, but we can go ahead and give it a go. Yeah, so what this is going to show us is the overall utilization of hotelable spaces grouped by departments within the organization. And then based on how a customer needs this information to group, there's more than likely a report pre-configured and built within the solution. So if we're needing to see this by building, by room, by user even, we can, of course, visualize the information in a variety of different ways via the standard kind of out-of-the-box reports. If the customer is leveraging Report Central or you're building reports for them within Report Central, of course, we can pull information from the various hoteling tables, include that, or rather arrange that data in any way that might need to be arranged. Of course, lay a chart over the top of that data and then save that as, that organizationally specific report library. But really what I'm wanting to focus in on here is, how do we take this information as it's being gathered and visualize it in a way that makes a lot of sense for a user at a very quick glance? Because in my opinion, that's really the reason to have reports in the first place, is so that I can, from a daily visual management perspective, see if I'm winning or losing the day across whatever metrics I'm in charge of managing, as my role within the organization. So I switched users real quick because the AFM mod user that I've logged into here has access to this particular homepage. Now, again, we're working with some demo data here, so apologies for some of the blanks and maybe some of the off-color codings here. But this is a good example of tying hoteling information to the various metrics that you can leverage within the Archibus tool, and then having those metrics being displayed as key performance indicators on something like a homepage. If you're unfamiliar with Archibus's capabilities with regard to kind of KPIs and metrics in general, feel free to reach out to myself or to somebody else, and we'll make sure to provide you with some documentation or best practices around visualizing data within the tool. But this is providing this individual user a really good high-level look at what's going on regarding reservations and hoteling just kind of in general. So we can see where we stand from workspace utilization, and this is currently grouped by building. Workspace availability. We also have conference room information being displayed here as well. Of course, that can be incorporated into, the Archibus solution is the meeting room reservation capabilities. What alerts are we needing to take a look at? So in my mind, data visualization, data widgets, graphs, charts are awesome. I just need to know what it is that needs my attention right then and there. And so this does quite a good job of surfacing that information to me here, so I can drill into the reservations that are pending verification, or whatever the user might need to be displayed here, so they can take quick action against it. And then this is also very, very helpful. So this is providing us with kind of a quick trend analysis. These directional arrows are saying how are we performing over a comparative date period around our workplace services. And then obviously we've also got the capability of reporting against kind of seating ratios, so workspace employees per seat. And so that goes back into equipping us with information as a consumer of Archibus to make those decisions, or to at least provide some decision support or directional evidence around how are we really utilizing the space that we've got that's making up our inventory currently. Are there options to improve? Do we need to expand the use of our space? Do we need to, create, enter into a new lease? And then of course, customers are thrilled with the fact that, all these capabilities, all the different modules that things like space utilization or space optimization touch in Archibus, because it's all part of that singular IWMS platform, which is always a great thing to end a demonstration with. So speaking of ending a demonstration, that's what I wanted to cover with the team. I have one other option or one other reporting visual that I'm wanting to share with the group today, which I think does a great job of, again, providing you with a more refined look around overall space utilization or hoteling utilization and metrics along those lines. But what we covered in the kind of core part of our demonstration today is that end user experience. And I hope you agree that that provides the end user with a really straightforward way of booking that perfect space while still adhering to the organizational standard. How do we administer the tool? So how do we establish those guardrails around how users interact with hotelable spaces? And then finally, how do we gain insights into the overall space utilization via all this transactional data that we're capturing around hoteling spaces? And then, as I had mentioned before, this is an example of a report that we've created where it's taking a look at badge data and or real-time space occupancy data. And so what this does for a customer, assuming that they elect to move forward with an integration of that nature, is kind of further define or refine or thin the slice of time that we're looking at. So this is a much closer look at overall utilization metrics or hoteling metrics from like a moment-to-moment perspective, because it's consuming that information from a little bit more of a real-time solution into the Archibus tool. And I just wanted to expose the team to that because there is a little bit of a wow factor to that, in my opinion, and it resonates with customers very, very well. All right, so I am done talking at you. We're gonna transition over into the Q&A session. But prior to doing so, if I don't have the opportunity after our question and answer session wraps up, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you gained some valuable intel in terms of what Archibus's capabilities are from a hoteling perspective, and you're looking forward to positioning that to your customers moving forward. So Mike Jeffs, the other Mike, how are we looking on Q&A?
We've got a few here. The first one's from Brian. How is the end user notified what desk they have booked so they know where to go on the day they use the space?
So that's going to be part of the email notification or confirmation email that they get once they book their space.
Okay, great. And then Caroline asked, what version of Archibus are you using for this demonstration?
This environment is on 26.2.
Okay. And let's see here. Just 1 second here. Are the alerts in reporting configurable to email the manager when the metrics for the alert are met? That's a follow-up from Brian.
Okay, Brian, that is a good question, and we've exposed a knowledge gap that I have. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to take that down and get back to you with a response.
Okay, great. If you asked a question and it did not get answered, can you put it back in, because some of them did get deleted? I do apologize. Lucas asks, is this available in earlier versions of Archibus?
I believe it is available in earlier versions. I'm just not sure up into what point or what version, like how far can we go back prior to this not being available? And I have a colleague on the webinar as well. Bar, if you're still in the meeting, could you just message me the answer to that via Teams, and I'll make sure to share it with the wider audience?
Okay, awesome. Again, if we didn't get to your question, can you put it back in the question section, as a few of them did get deleted? I do apologize for that. Give everyone just another second to get their last questions in. Okay. Here's one. Did you guys get rid of the blue bubbles that used to mark a hotelable desk on the workplace floor plan interface? If yes, why? We have 25.4 and would also like to get rid of those. Is it doable by configuration or customization?
Now, I'm not sure, Giacomo, if the blue bubbles, so I pulled the application back up on screen, and let me cancel out of this real quick. The interface that's being displayed here, are these what you mean by blue bubbles? If this isn't what you meant by blue bubbles, excuse me, that's kind of fun. Then yes, we did eliminate the use of them within the interface. And for the audience, I'm a little bit newer to the organization, so I don't have as deep of experience with the previous versions of Archibus. But that is the current user interface when we're talking about hotelable spaces from the Workplace Services portal.
Okay, he said yes, that is what he was referring to.
Okay.
So we can follow up with him on that.
Agreed. So let me just take that down on here. I'm sure we'll have access to the questions following our time together, but just so it's on my docket for action items. Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, we did just want to mention one other thing on the slide deck. Mike, if you want to head back there. These are the upcoming webinars that we have. If you'd like to learn more or register, there's a URL there, spaceiq.com/resources/events to learn more or to register. So head on over there. You might want to actually just bookmark that URL on your browser. And if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and end. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And the recording will be sent out in the next day or two, so look for that. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. Thanks, team. Have a great rest of your week.